Evolutionary Underground Supplements episode number 18 coming your way. Today we're going to be comparing N2Guard to other organ liver support. So in this one, Mobster and I, we're going to talk about why is organ liver support needed. We're going to talk about comparing other liver support to N2Guard. We're going to talk about proper dosing of effective ingredients. We're going to talk about N2Guard ingredients and the synergy and what makes it so special. We're going to dig into the specific liver supplements. We're also going to talk about some of the other ingredients in it that help those liver supplements work even better. And then we're going to talk about N2BM, the history and the success, and how long they've been around, all that good stuff. So I've been using N2BM maybe longer than most people out there. So we can talk about the company and how it got started and all that fun stuff. So let's get into first, why is an organ liver support needed? So I'm going to bring in Mobster in a second, but let me kind of go over a little bit blood work. And when it comes to blood work, we did a prior episode about blood work. We've done several episodes on blood work. You can go back and listen to them. But there's a couple blood work markers that really target the liver. And that's the ALT and the AST. So if you get blood work done, either go through the doctor or get blood work on your own, you'll see those numbers. Now, the max should be about 40 or 44. Those should the max. And those enzymes, okay, are showing up in your blood work as high above that number, then you know that your liver is overwhelmed. It's not functioning correctly. It needs help, okay? And I've been doing this a long time. I've seen lots of blood work, Mobster, lots of blood work. And I've seen blood work numbers that really were scary. I've seen blood work numbers where it was, instead of being up to where it should be, I've seen them triple, double, even more. So really it should be up to 40 units per liter when it comes to AST and ALT. And I've seen numbers, Mobster, that were 70, 80 typically. I've seen numbers over 100. I've seen numbers over 200 or 300. So once you start getting numbers that are really in the triple digits, that's when you can open up yourself for liver diseases. You can open yourself up for jaundice. We've seen people post pictures of their eyes, and their eyes were yellow.
Yeah.
That's jaundice.
Yes.
And that's a visible side effect that you're noticing. But what are the invisible side effects that are inside the body going on? You start straining your liver, you start fucking with your liver, it's going to have a domino effect of issues. One of the issues that you're going to have is your energy levels are going to go down. And that's one of the things that I've learned over the years, that, you know, because it's funny, because with bodybuilding is all about image. It's all about image. It's what about what we can see. But people don't pay attention to what they don't see, and they ignore some of what they don't see. So if you're using steroids, right, and you're using oral steroids or injectable steroids, which both will hammer the liver, toxic oral steroids will hammer the liver worst of all in the short run, right? But long term, also injectable steroids, if you abuse injectable steroids, they will also hammer the liver. But look, I've seen over the years situations where people have noticed when they're on these steroid cycles, their energy levels drop. And a lot of people assume that their energy levels drop for different reasons. Oh, maybe I'm gaining too much or something like that, which is a legitimate concern because that hammers your heart. But they don't realize that the liver being strained can also seep your energy. So if you get your blood work done and you see, even if you never use anabolic steroids, if you get your blood work done and you've abused alcohol, you've abused prescription drugs, you've abused other things that hammer the liver, you could get your numbers. You could notice your AST and your ALT are over 40 units per liter. And that would mean that, yeah, my liver is strained. Maybe I should do something about it. And that's where a good liver support supplement comes into play. Another time that you notice your liver is strained is coming off a cycle. Could be weeks after cycle. You get your blood work done. You're like, shit, my number is high, still high. Should I run my next cycle? Yeah. The answer is no. You need to get your liver numbers back in line. So even if you're late to the party and you didn't use liver support on cycle, but then you get blood work done, your liver, your AST and your ALT are strained, then that's a good time to also run the N2Guard to get your liver numbers back in line. So there are not just, even if you missed it on cycle, you could still run the N2Guard off cycle. And even if you did run N2Guard on cycle, you can continue running N2Guard to get your liver numbers back in line as along with your other organ numbers. So, Mobster, why don't you give your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, look, on occasion, and it's not often, thank goodness, on occasion we'll have people on the forums, especially new members, that have been to the doctor for a regular checkup. Steve, might be 5 years, 10 years, it might be for insurance, medical purposes, whatever. Okay, it might even be job related. And kind of skewed, and I'm going to touch on this in a little while. They'll come on and say, oh my God, my doctor's just done a blood test for me. My liver numbers are all over the place, and I'm looking for a supplement that's going to help me. And of course, we're going to turn around and say N2Guard will absolutely help you. We know that. Steve referred to the blood test earlier on and turned around and said, we have literally seen, Steve especially has seen, the difference between someone that's had skewed numbers, possibly as a result of PED use, on cycle use, and then had numbers done either during a cycle or just after a cycle, Steve, where the numbers have improved literally just as a result of using an organ protector like N2Guard. Okay, and specifically N2Guard for obvious reasons, because that's what we're looking at. And this is what we've recommended, and then they've come back with better results. What I have occasionally seen, Steve, is, and Steve's actually touched upon this in the comments that you made earlier, what you should do first, guys, is realize that some of the elements of your just normal Joe, not even going to the gym lifestyle, can impact these numbers. How many of us know people, and we might have even been guilty of this ourselves before, where, I mean, as a younger man, did I go out drinking regularly on a Friday and a Saturday night? Yes. Might have had a couple of beers after work on a Friday, definitely went out on a Saturday night. I was never one of his long weekend jobs there, Steve, but and my training wasn't as important then as it is now. So 100%, I would go out and occasionally fucking have a really good night. Young men, that's what we do. But what you don't understand and what you forget, and it doesn't just have to come down to booze, Steve. It can be poor diet, poor lifestyle choices, crazy work schedules, not getting enough rest, not just living a vaguely healthy lifestyle, and it catches up on you. And how many of us have this kind of almost, the body will fix itself. I don't even think about it. And then when it bites you in the ass, when you come back with those blood test results, when the doctor says, listen, you're going to need to make some lifestyle changes, motherfucker, because this is not good. You can't come and just do a fix. What you need to do, what you should be doing, and we want to emphasize this during this show as well, is a proper quote unquote bodybuilding lifestyle, or even a weightlifting strongman type lifestyle, should include proper rest. It should include good healthy diet. It should include getting your rest and recovery, and these things in and of themselves, with as little prescription medication as possible, with as little alcohol or overindulgences, whatever you want to call it, Steve, especially recreational, but even prescribed medication. And of course, with half an eye on genetic predisposition. If it's an issue in your family, it might be an issue for you. You cannot peel your way out of those things. You need to do two things. You need to fix those other elements. You cannot eat crap and grow to be the most, the next Mr. Olympia. You can't half-ass train in the gym and expect the same kind of results. But equally, I think of these things sometimes, Steve, as an insurance policy. If my diet is on point, if my training is on point, if my recovery is on point, if I'm not, doing recreational drugs or whatever, and all the other factors that we need to have half an eye on. And I might then, as I do, as we do on these shows, and we talk about it on these shows, then use PEDs. The fuck I should be using an organ protector like N2Guard? Absolutely, of course I should, because for a variety of reasons. Number one is actual just good old-fashioned health, Steve. Whether I train or don't train, whether I eat right or whatever, I want to be healthy. I want a nice, healthy, active lifestyle that I can do stuff and not worry about these other things. I don't want to be going to the doctor and getting red flag warnings. That makes sense. Number two, when it comes to PED use specifically, I want a better result from my cycle. I don't want to be doing something that makes me unhealthy when I'm supposed to be trying to be healthy. I don't want to do something that impacts, for want of a better phrase, my gains in strength or muscle or whatever else. while doing these things. And the reality of the situation is, and I'm going to bang the blood test drum again, Steve, is that we have, like Steve said, seen specific numbers come up. It's the reason why products like N2Guard were created way back in the day. Historically, what are we looking at here, Steve? I mean, the original product, and I'm not going to name it, but anybody that knows vaguely anything about history of bodybuilding will know what the name of this product was. But it was literally almost a singular product. There wasn't anything else available. And I'm talking about probably 30, 40 years ago, way, way back at the beginning when I first became interested in this kind of stuff. And prior to that, I think nothing was anything at all. Literally, if you talk about the silver age and golden age of bodybuilding in the 70s, there was nothing. The guys might have ate desiccated liver, but that was as much a source of protein as it was some sort of vaguely sort of boosting your actual organs. We would eat offal meat with the idea almost like you do with testosterone, Steve. If you eat bull's testicles, it will make you more manly. Not really. It doesn't work like that. You couldn't even eat human testicles. Your body's just going to turn it into protein and nutrition. It's not going to make you more manly. You don't get testosterone that way. But there was kind of half an idea that if you ate organ meat, it was actually cheap cuts of meat, and I don't mind it. I eat liver and kidney, no problem. Absolutely lovely. But in terms of that boost in my organ recovery, no, not really. It's not, doesn't quite work like that. So we had very, very little. And I said, even the original products, that was very, very limited. And I don't think there was anything else to compare for probably 5 or 10 years. There's always, even an argument now, Steve, that historically speaking, compared to say 20, 30 years ago, organ health in the general population is probably worse than it's ever been. And that comes down to the fact that we really process food big time. Home food deliveries make it worse. Going out for meals makes it worse. There's still too many people vaping and smoking. We're probably, as a society, and I'm thinking particularly of the American society, but the British society tends to follow that, way too many prescription medications, literally whole families on medications, typically multiple. And we quite often forget that some of these medications, as healthy as they are for whatever medical condition they're treated, really come down to the side effects. And pretty much every single over-the-counter medication, including stuff you can buy in gas stations and whatever else, can have side effects. And not only that, a lot of people are pilling their way out of stuff without treating the base cause. They don't want to fix their diet. They don't want to fix their lifestyle. Doctor, can you just give me a medication? And you really need to be doing those things as well. But especially when, like us listeners to this show, Steve and I, we are going to be doing, or have already done, or right now, as I do this podcast, are on cycle. And if we can use something while keeping the other things at bay, because we've got sensible heads on and we're listening to the show for that very reason, fixing the lifestyle, making sure training, etc., nutrition's on point, then the best thing we can do is say, you know what, I'm going to get better gains long term. I'm going to be able to train longer later into my life. I'm going to be able to use PEDs, and fingers crossed, if we do everything else right and we use a product like N2Guard, we can have as few issues as possible. It comes down to, of course, things like sensible dosing, Steve, no crazy mega cycles. You're not doing crazy shit that Steve and I will probably tell you not to do in terms of rolling the dice with your health, etc., etc. But I think there's a big element in society generally, Steve, almost a head in the sand approach to some of our bad habits. And because we don't get those checkups regularly, because we're not having these blood tests regularly, we're kind of almost head in the sand. I don't know nothing about it. And then when we do get these kind of numbers, and this is what I was on about when I see these forum posts, it scares the fuck out of people. And this is not just a case of changing your margarine and seeing your LDL get better or whatever, Steve. You know what I mean? You need to have half an idea from this show that some of the elements of what we do in order to become crazy muscular strength freaks will impact your health. And if you can do something to protect the health, that's great. But equally, as I said already, outside of the gym, outside of bodybuilding, many, many people in society, I think it's a big, big number, Steve, they're almost sort of, you don't realize you're not invincible until it bites you on the ass, until the doctor gives you a shock. Now, of course, and I will finish off on this part as well, Steve, I've talked about DNA testing. I've talked about some of the way insurance companies are starting to work, and this really applies to our American audience, to a very small degree, the private medical industry here in the UK. And that is, if they get you to go and get a test, guys, And some of the stuff, including prescription medication prescribed to you by your doctor, by your MD, by your GP here, affects your numbers, it's going to fuck your premium. So anything you can do to protect yourself and improve your numbers, arguably, Steve, is actually going to save yourself some money on medical insurance. I watch some of those weird TV court type things that you see on YouTube and on Reels and Instagram and whatever else. And when I hear sometimes the medical insurance just for kids being $300, $400 per month per child, that's like 300 UK. If it's $400, it's about £300 per child just for medical insurance. And if you're an adult, it's going to be a lot more than that, of course. It depends where you are and your values, etc. Anything you can do to lower those premiums by using a product that's way less expensive than the amount of money that you pay on those premiums, anything you can do to improve that. Insurance companies will find any kind of way they can to raise your premiums and raise the cost of medical practice in America. I've heard of tens of thousands of dollars for overnight stays, and all the person's been prescribed as an Advil. So you really have to sort of have an idea. Things you can do to look after yourself, things you can do to lower your premiums, not putting your head in the sand when it comes to medical issues. So do we need an organ protector? Yes. And here's another thing, Steve. Let's talk about, just touch to finish, every single guru type podcast I can think of would have you using some kind of organ protector like product, exactly like N2Guard, or of course N2Guard specifically, purely and simply because they understand these values that we talked about. It's not just something that we say in these shows to sort of get you to buy a product or whatever else. So you can go across and see multiple gurus, multiple people talking about steroids. And something I will actually touch upon, Steve, I've seen 2 or 3 of the better ones discuss this properly. A lot of the really crappy ones, and you and I know the kind of people we're talking about, they love to go on shows and talk about 10 grams and 5 grams and all this kind of stuff. But what you'll very rarely hear those kind of podcasts, which really is clickbait type bullshit. They know that it gets traction, but they're not really looking at your health. And so you almost never see these kind of people talk about organ protection and looking after yourself and using the product N2Guard. It's much easier for them to talk about DMP and insulin and all that kind of stuff because it makes for fun listening, but it's not responsible. It's not being long-term viewed. It's only living in the fucking now and not worrying about long-term health issues down the road. So absolutely, do we need a product like N2Guard to protect our organs? Yes. Back to you, Steve.
All right, so let's get into the next topic, Mobster. And let's talk about comparing other liver support. So we've seen a lot of different liver support supplements pop up all over the place. I mean, supplement industry is a huge industry. Listen, most of these supplement owners, I would say 99% of them, they're just businessmen. And what they'll do is they'll get a athlete or a bodybuilder, they'll link up with them. They'll say, hey, let's start our own supplement company. You're a big bodybuilder. You can promote it. I'll give you half. I'll do all the work and I'll give you 25% or 30% of the profits every month. And the bodybuilder is like, hell yeah, I want to do it. Hey, I don't have to do shit. And I'm still making money just to use my name. And the businessman, he's going to put out a product with the biggest margins possible that the bodybuilder can promote. And the bodybuilder has 1 million followers on social media. And the bodybuilder is going to push it and push it and push it and claim that he's on it and all this stuff. And look, what is the most naive demographic out there? It's young males between, I'd say, 18, 19 years old to 27. And where do they spend their money on? They spend their money on stuff like this, on supplements. So they're going to go out, and because the bodybuilder, the big meathead bodybuilder is promoting it, they're going to go and buy it. And they're not going to know to check the ingredients. They're not going to know to check their bloods to see if this product is even working. They're not going to know any better because they don't have the experience, and they're just going to trust their bodybuilder hero that they see on Instagram. It's marketing, and it's every industry that's like that, okay? The food industry, same thing. You think that the people who run these food companies are food experts or they're nutritionists or anything. No, they're businessmen, and they're trying to make money. That's the idea. So the best supplement companies, the biggest supplement companies out there, are run by corporations, by businessmen. They're not run by actual athletes themselves and actual people. And we're going to get into NBM, N2BM, and what's behind it. But the difference here, what I'm trying to get at, is the owner of the supplement company that you're buying these liver support supplements from, they're out there, they're driving Lamborghinis, they're living in 20-bedroom houses in Boca or in Beverly Hills. Okay. How did they get so rich? They got so rich off of you. That's not what N2BM is all about. N2BM owner lives a modest lifestyle. They don't go around driving a Lamborghini. They don't have bodybuilders promoting their products, okay, that are being paid to promote their products, right? There's no grift. It's just word of mouth. In fact, I can tell you with N2Guard, the customer base of N2Guard are repeat customers. I'd say 80 to 90% of the people who buy N2Guard are repeat customers. And the other 10% are people who heard about the product through word of mouth. And then they themselves become repeat customers. You see the way it works? That's how N2BM works. That's how they make money, through repeat customers. These other supplement companies, they make money off of that demographic I was talking about. And once that demographic gets a little older and more wiser and more experienced, they realize, yeah, this supplement ain't doing shit for me. I'm not going to use it anymore. But the bodybuilder is still pushing it to new people that come up, and they come in and they start buying it. So it's basically, I'll buy it once or twice. It doesn't work, doesn't do anything for me. I'm going to stop using it. N2Guard, on the other hand, that's the main difference. It's repeat customers. The same people buy it over and over and over again because they see it's working. They see their blood work getting better. They see their blood pressure is getting better, which is easy to test. You can say, wow, I'm on N2Guard for a couple of weeks and my blood pressure just dropped 10 or 15 points without using medication. It's dropped 10, 15 points. This stuff is working. I noticed on cycle, I'm feeling better on cycle. I have more energy on cycle. I have, my liver's functioning easier when I get blood work done. Instead of my AST and ALT being over 100 on the same cycle, it's only at 60, 70, which is very manageable because I know when I come off of my cycle, it's going to go back to normal a lot quicker. Thanks to the N2Guard. The N2Guard is aiding my liver the way it should be. You see? So that's, I'm from an economic standpoint, that's my little comparison with other other liver support supplements, Mobster.
Yeah, I mean, let me give you an example, listeners, so how this works. And I'll just start with this particular one, Steve. Right. So one of the things I did in the pre-show is I wanted to look at something that would be vaguely comparable, and I found 3 or 4 different company products. Now, here's one single analogy right now, Steve. 3 of the products, I'll tell a lie, 3 of the products have more or less the same price, but they have in different ingredient profiles, which suggests to me it's one of those things that a marketing part of the company, might be literally marketing, they might have a specific department just for that, has gone on and looked and said, what's the price that we can get customers to pay? What do customers want to pay for a quote unquote organ protecting like product? Something that's going to give them some liver support, which is the topic of today's show. And it's about 1/3, in fact, slightly less than 1/3 of what N2Guard cost, which suggests to me that they've made a product to a price. They haven't necessarily made a product to a certain quality. The worst example, and we actually discussed this particular product on another show when we were talking about N2Guard, is named after the very first organ protecting type product that we talked about earlier on. But it's nowhere near the quality that it should be. And in fact, arguably, Steve, it's the fucking cheapest. I said to Steve in the pre-show, and I'm not going to mention the price, but the other 2-3 products per tub cost what you can buy the particular product I'm thinking of 11, or is it 10 or 11 fucking tubs for? In other words, it is 1/10 or 1/11 of the price of the generic products I'm on about. And it is off the top, let me think this off the top of my head, Steve. It is about, you could probably buy 20 something of these fucking things. Yeah, 20 odd tubs of this particular product for 1 tub of N2Guard. What does that tell you? It tells you that it is cheap as fuck. Steve, I pay more for fucking car magazines than you could buy for 1 tub of this particular product. How the fuck, I don't care if it's the biggest company in the fucking world, which it is not. If it's the biggest company in the world, and it is a big company because you and I discussed this on another show, cannot produce a quality product at that price. It is impossible. Worse, and all these other companies are included in this, they're not always sold direct. That means there's sometimes a price as a margin in the price for a reseller. In other words, it's about fucking half the price to produce and be sold direct versus the price that they need to include in margin for the reseller to make a profit too. So in other words, they are fucking cheap as fuck. And that is just, that's of the better other products, alternatives that are out there. Buying direct, as you do, you start to make comparisons. So one of the things that I've encouraged in other shows, and I'll do it on this show, as I say, listeners, do your own research and listen, right? You're listening to the show to get advice and information. So I don't want you to have to fucking go through every single of the 40 plus ingredients that's in N2Guard. That'll take you a lot of time. But you can literally pick 2, maybe 3 of the main ingredients. And we're going to talk about a couple of those. And I say, okay, off you go. And you go to one of the databases. There are many available with studies. And it talks about the studies and how the study came to a decision and who was involved in the study and the age and the ingredients and so on and so forth. And you go, right, what was the most effective dose of an ingredient in that study? So let me give you an example. And I told Steve this in a pre-show. There's a common ingredient across pretty much every single one of these organ protective type products. But every single product has a different amount. Well, that doesn't make sense either. One, I'm not going to name it, but one went from 1,100 milligrams, and another product I'm looking at on the screen while we're talking right now has 100 milligrams. And you go, okay, so why is one company using 1,100 milligrams and another company using 100 milligrams? And they're more or less the same price, Steve. Again, about a third of what it costs for N2Guard. And what's the comparative amount in N2Guard? I believe it's about 300 milligrams without me even looking, even just talking to the listeners right now. So that doesn't make any sense. Again, I said to Steve, if you were talking about studies and if you were talking about an effective dose, and even if you allow for the fact that certain ingredients work in a synergistic way, in other words, a combination of ingredients produces a greater end result than a singular ingredient at the effective dose that was studied in a study. And this is the way studies work. They don't do combinations. Will always be a singular ingredient. So, for example, and I'll just use one here, Steve, that I'm looking at right now, a form of dandelion root extract. You're okay. So that would be singularly given to users. They get them all to train the same way. They all get to eat the same way. That's how studies work. And then you give them a singular ingredient, and then you test their blood results, and you look at it. Then if you're a company that's producing an organ protective type product, why would you have such varying amounts? Why would the cheapest one have a mere fraction? Why would the most expensive one have that much more or closer to the effective dose? Why are the other companies? Because what Steve said already, they're making it to a fucking price. Then they're making it for a profit. And in fact, as Steve was talking about it earlier, I remembered, I actually said the name of a company owner to Steve in a pre-show. Comes across as a really good guy. And the products ain't too bad, Steve. There's 2 or 3 products that are fucking amazing, specifically in the UK market. They do quite well. But I also noticed that the owner's brought himself, as a result of success, the company's had a McLaren, $172,200 something odd $1,000 sports car. As a result of the company's success, it's actually part of the promotional material that they do. Sitting there in the background in the warehouse when he does another promo, and so on and so forth. So it sits there, this people in the gym that's in the warehouse behind chipboard desk, making it look like everything's done on a cheap that they can put out solid products. But the sports cars off to one side and say, we might be doing everything on the cheap, but we're making shitloads of money because the boss has got this fucking $200,000 sports car. So it's all a bit of bullshit. And it's unfortunately for me, Stephen, we know this, when it comes to the supplement industry, there's an enormous amount of Me Too products. And one of the things that some supplement companies have done for the longest period of time, and I'm a big, as you know, Steve, iron game historian, bodybuilding and magazine and book collector. And I could tell you, for example, with Muscular Development, when that magazine was available, the first 40 pages was like a fashion magazine, in that the first 40 pages was adverts. And there was a bunch of products, for example, fat burners, and half these companies were claiming to have the strongest fat burner in the world. Well, you can't all fucking have it, motherfuckers. So what do? They will put the name of the ingredient in big letters in an advert, or they'll put it in bold, or they'll underline it, and they'll say that this ingredient's been shown to be effective in a study, not at the dosages that you're using. If it's the case, why haven't you all got the same dose in every single product for all those companies? Because you're there to make money. You're not really there to protect the organs of the users, because you would all put an effective dose in. You'd all have other ingredients there that support the ingredients you're doing, even if what you was using at slightly lower dose than what was shown to be effective in a study, but you're not. That's the reason why we see these great variations. That's the reason why they will emphasize the fact they've got one or two really, really good ingredients, but the rest is just fillers of crap or a poor form of the ingredients and so on and so forth. So we see this a lot, Steve, and it's kind of annoying, right? The reality of the situation is that the stuff that works really well, creatine, protein, etc., doesn't really make those companies money. They make loads and loads of money with fat burners and pre-workouts, and to a slightly lesser degree with organ protectant type products. But they're making loads of money, Steve, and that doesn't suggest to me that you're trying to sort of serve your customers in a particular way. I would rather use a product like N2Guard, where we know the company profile, we know the history that got the things like, we know the reality of the situation is that sometimes their products sell out for the repeat buyers that Steve's talked about. So the fact where myself and other customers, you deliberately go out and you buy 4 tubs at a time, Steve, so that you've actually got stockpiles of this particular product, in this case, N2Guard, because it fucking works. There's 2 or 3 other products they produced in the past, which I've been absolutely massive fans of. So I want to move on from this particular thing, Steve. But guys, if I want you, before I finish this segment, I want you to do this. If you see another product, you go, why can't I use this product instead? Hold it up, shine a light on it. Click on that part of the website, forum, wherever the fuck it is you're looking, magazine even, and look at the ingredient. If you're in a shop, literally turn it around in your hand and look at the ingredient. And like I said, pick 2 or 3 ingredients. Don't even do the study thing that I talked about earlier. Just go, right, what are the 3 main ingredients, 4 main ingredients that are absolutely effective at protecting my liver? And why doesn't this cheap-ass supplement that I'm holding in my hand, or I'm looking online, or I'm looking in a magazine advert, or whatever, why is that dose so low? Why is it not even in the extract or form that it needs to be in? And why is it this price? How is it this much cheaper for what it is? How is that other one that the Mobster mentioned 10 fucking times cheaper, Steve? It cannot be an effective product. It cannot protect you. You would literally have, listeners, you would have to take 10 of those fucking tubs just to match one of the other cheaper ingredients. Never mind the fact it was closer to 30, if I do the numbers in my head, Steve, closer to 30 tubs for what 1 tub of N2Guard cost. N2Guard's not fucking driving around in a gold-plated Rolls Royce because of their product price. Absolutely not. They've been normal money, normal Joes who just happen to have a fucking passion for this thing and producing products with effective dosages and the proper ingredients from the right place and the right source, like I've talked about on other shows. And the other products, they just can't compare. I mean, literally, in the case of the cheapest version, it's not even on the same fucking page. And yet, if I search for an organ protector online, it's the first one that comes up. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. It's literally the equivalent of $5.50 per tub. That's just fucking shit. You can't even begin to think that that's supposed to be producing something close to it. I think Steve talked about on another show that we said it's for your grandma. It's not even for your grandma, Steve, and she wore more than that. The idea that they copied this name from this old product from back in the day, and that's probably the biggest value of the product, the name. I wouldn't even begin to, the ingredient thing is a joke. I mean, I'm looking down at the numbers of ingredients here, Steve. Again, this is 2 UK companies, 9 ingredients and 5 ingredients for a similar product. A well-known, who's now passed away, unfortunately, bodybuilders products. The UK reseller of it multiply mentions different aspects of it, giving some confusion that there's loads and loads of ingredients, when in fact there's only about 5 or 6 ingredients in it, because they mention different ingredients serving different purposes, and that's just a product description. And then the really, really cheap one has 7 ingredients in. But at such a low dose, it has to be kind of pointless. You'd be better off eating just a healthy lifestyle and be done with it, Steve. Never mind organ protection. And all you're really buying when you buy that product is a name. And that is it, Steve. And that's based on the historical product from way back in the day versus what it's all about now. I mean, it's obvious from a business point of view, whether I'm selling Coca-Cola or newspapers or whatever else, I want you to have a perception of value. I want you, if I buy a newspaper, I'm selling you information, and the information you're going to get in my newspaper is absolutely fucking amazing. Not for 30 cents. it needs to be $1. It needs to be $2. You start to work these things out for yourself, listeners, especially the older listeners. You start to realize that for you to get proper value, proper information, if it was a newspaper, a good glass of wine, whatever else, you start to realize it cannot be done cheaply. I will touch on this in terms of the ingredients, and I mentioned this on another show. Some of the ingredients that we've discussed in the past have required seasonal buying. You are buying, and I've actually done this in the supplement industry when I own a company myself. See, you're sometimes trying to fix a price for 12 months at a time. You're literally trying to go out there and buy an ingredient that's only available in the spring, but you're trying to buy the whole fucking year supply. Or you're trying to buy enough supply in the spring to be able to put that into every single tub you're making for the rest of the year. It needs to be of a standardized dose. Otherwise, what's the point? It needs to be the effective standardized dose as per the study that said that that particular ingredient was useful for liver protection. If it's not, you are literally wasting your fucking money. So some of these products, they're okay. The worst one is just cheap as fuck, Steve. You need to understand that business is kind of weird in that way sometimes. That the Indian company, which is multi-millions of dollars, that produces a cheap product, is literally selling that product all over the world. I would actually guess, Steve, it probably costs the equivalent of £1 sterling to create. So that's about $1.50, $1.20, $1.30 to create this product. And I don't doubt for a second that somewhere there's something that has a month's supply. It's an absolute fucking joke. So yeah, let me expand on the proper dose of effective ingredients. Okay, that's the next point. Right. So again, you start referencing studies, and you go, it's no good if the effective dose of something is 300 milligrams. And again, I could use dandelion extract or thornberry or whatever, and I could specifically say, right, so in a study, this was the amount that was used, and then for whatever reason, supplement companies will put in that as the ingredient. It's listed. If you're very lucky, not all these organ protecting products I've looked at have got all the proper ingredients in. Some of them, like I said, have got a minimal number of ingredients in, and then they're not putting in the right effective doses. So an effective dose is literally what was shown in the study. 100 users, typically students that are using studies, trained for a month, and we had them all trained in exactly the same way. We tried as best as possible to control the amount of food that they were eating in the better studies, and therefore we can control the end results. And then the result comes out with an average of the user. You have some users have got great results, some users have great poor results, but we take an average of all these 100 people to give you a number. And what we found was that in 97% of the users, this dosage at the right amount over the same period of time, etc., produced the following numbers on blood tests, the following fall off of negative liver result numbers. And you do this again and again and again. You do this with all the ingredients, and you start to see what an effective dose is. Now, for example, as I said earlier on, and I've described this on other shows, certain products, certain ingredients require you to use the leaves, not the stem or the flower or the seed, but it has to be the right part of the plant or the right sort kind of ingredient. If it's not, then what's the fucking point? You're literally discarding the part of the plant that was effective for a part of the plant that's not. And I guarantee you, the part of the plant that's not is cheaper to buy. What about the standardization that I touched upon earlier on? Certain ingredients, and I've talked about this when we talked about testosterone boosters, Steve, when I said, oh, you know, this was shown to boost the testosterone. Even in the initial studies, they were only buying that particular product, the ingredient, the plant, from one place in the world, nowhere else. And as soon as people started to realize they could make some money, companies started looking around the rest of the world for an alternative because the original ingredient was so goddamn expensive. So they got another country's product, which might not be grown into the same conditions. So that was, and then what happened is that the market for that particular ingredient was going crazy. The price went through the roof. But there were grades. There was a really, really high quality grade from the original country with the original more or less standardized form in the ingredient. And then there was the low grade. And I've literally described this as a leaf type product. So the top of the bag, the high grade stuff, was the whole leaf steam with at least a minimum amount of active ingredient per leaf. The bottom of the bag, literally the dried part of the leaf that had cascaded down to the bottom, was dry, wasn't as nutritious, didn't come from the right country, had the least amount of active ingredient. So it got to the point where if you could include this name of this ingredient on a product for boosting testosterone, but it had no effective dose, or it was a minimal standardization. It was way below what was tested to be found to be effective, and so on and so forth. And so if you want to make a quality product, sometimes you need to pay a premium. You need to buy this stuff months, if not even a year in advance, Steve. You need to buy a year's supply at a time, and so on and so forth. So, for example, we could take an N2Guard sub ingredient, and an N2Guard, it needs to build muscle, might need to buy a ton or 2 tons of that at a time, two to 4,000 pounds of it at a time, in order to be able to fill every single order that they're expecting over the next 12 months. And that might cost them $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. And the market can be literally different from one day to the next. The commodities market, because I've been involved in this again while the supplement companies, meant that I couldn't fix prices on some of my ingredients for 3 months at a time. That wouldn't let me do 6 months. They wouldn't let me do 12 months because of the price going up and down through the year. And they think they'd lose a buck or gain a buck. So that's what you're looking at quite often when you look at these things. You need to have an understanding. Let's touch upon on some of these ingredients, even some of the dosages. Back to you for a second.
Yeah, so let's start. Let me go through the 6 of the top liver ingredients that are in N2Guard. Now, keep in mind, there's more that are included, but I'm going to touch on these specific 6. The first one to touch on is dandelion root. And we've all heard of dandelion root. It's popular. Now, if you use dandelion root alone, you can have a little bit of a gentle diuretic effect. But when you use it stacked with other liver supplements and other supplements that are in N2Guard, it's also going to help cleanse out your liver. So it's going to help your liver, give your liver more breathing room to do its job. So it's a really, really good addition to this formula. Next one is TUDCA. And the original N2Guard did not have TUDCA for years. And then they started including it, I'd say about 8-9 years ago, Mobster. And the reason they started including it is TUDCA is has become one of the top selling liver support supplements and also organ support supplements out there. And it's considered today a must in any liver supplement. So if you're buying any of these other liver supplements online and it doesn't have TUDCA, you're wasting your money. Let me put it that way. So N2Guard has just the right amount of TUDCA to go along with the other ingredients. Pricroliv, and the name would give you the indication because it ends in LIV. And there's a reason for this one. This is actually one of the best supplements for the liver, but it's very, very rarely included in supplements, Mobster. And doctors who work with the liver will actually recommend Pricroliv to their customers. So this is really well known, even in Western medicine, as an excellent supplement. And it makes it easier for oxygen to travel through the body. It boosts your liver to help do its job better. Very strong liver supplement, and it should be included in every formula, and it is. And N2Guard has an excellent amount of Pricroliv in it. Milk thistle seed extract. Back in your day, Mobster, this was the #1 selling supplement for liver. And a lot of people, the reason it's called milk thistle seed extract, if you ever see the flower, it looks like milk because it's white. So that's how it got its name. And it's still an excellent and effective and great addition. And it works in synergy. Now, using milk thistle by itself, a lot of people like to use it by itself. It's just not going to do the job. It really needs to be stacked. So this is why part of the formula makes it so much more effective. A couple more, turmeric root. A lot of people know about it because it's used in seasoning for food. And in your country, Mobster, a lot of people use turmeric root in you guys' culture over there. Because of the Indian influence and the South Asian influence in Britain. And a lot of people in America use turmeric root in their foods because it helps with like knee pain and elbow pain and stuff. But look, the bottom line is it's also really good for the liver, and it's a good liver cleanser as well. But just sprinkling on some turmeric root onto your food isn't going to do the job. You got to use the supplement, and you got to use it in synergy with the other stuff. And the last one is basically a bunch of vitamins and a bunch of minerals. You can go through the list. Just about every vitamin and mineral you can imagine is in N2Guard. And all these vitamins and minerals help everything work good together. It helps boost your entire health, including your liver, including your other organs. So all 6 of these ingredients and more, 44 ingredients total in N2Guard, all work together to make sure that you're boosting your liver health and keeping your liver health good. You're not going to find this in other supplements. You're not going to find these ingredients. You're not going to find the dosing in these other ingredients.
No.
So you can't compare it. You can't compare it. N2Guard is so much better than any other product. And literally, you guys listening to this, if you're on cycle and you're dealing with side effects and you're dealing with bad energy and you're dealing with a lot of issues, get N2Guard. I guarantee you within a few days, you'll feel that. If you know your body well, you'll feel the changes within a few days on it. And I've had so many people come to me like, Steve, this product works. This product works. And I'm like, yeah, I know, bro. I wish I would have came up with the product myself because it works so fucking good. And, it's such a great product. And that's the key with a great product is people who keep coming back and repeat buyers. This is an investment into your body. This is an investment into your health. And it will save you money in the long term. Mobster just talked about insurance premiums. They keep going higher and higher.
Steve, good grief.
And then
time wasted in the gym, Steve. The amount of money you guys spend on high protein foods, the amount of money you spent on gas just driving to the gym, the time that you spent in the gym is an investment. All of those things are an investment in your body for your health because you want to get bigger and more muscular, you want to get stronger, or you just want to be leaner and look better for the beach, right? All that time. Just imagine you go to the gym 3 times a week for 3 hours, plus a half-hour drive there and back, after work, after school, whatever, okay? So it's somewhere between 6 and 9 hours a week, really. And you do this for 16, 20 weeks just to get ready for the beach. But you half-ass it. You don't train that hard at the gym. You're still eating junk food. But suddenly you start to train harder and you start to put your foot down in gas in terms of kicking ass in the gym. You've got that focus coming for the holiday. You want to look great for the photographs, etc. on the beach, Steve, right? You start to clean up your diet and you realize, as we all do now, Steve, the cost of food is going through the roof. So listen, if I want to buy steak and chicken breast, it's going to cost me some money. If I want to buy my protein powders and other pills that I need to take, even just getting your value for money out of your steroid cycle, why waste a buck and waste all that time? I need to realize there's a few weeks to go. I'm really going to have to up my game. No, you put a lot of time and effort into it. Steve's been training 20 plus years. I've been training 45 plus years. If we haven't fucking got results by now, I'd be really pissed off. We wouldn't be doing this show, okay? So we want the same for our listeners. We want the same for readers and members of the forum. And we try to encourage that. When I talk about just on a steroid cycle, I said, your average Joe is spending somewhere between 500 to 750, maybe $1,000 a cycle. Realistically, 1,000 is probably going to tip you a little bit over. You've got something left for next time. So let's call it $750. Gym membership can be $30 a month. You've got other bits and pieces and other money that you spend on getting to the gym, that gas money and so on and so forth. So realistically, what we're looking at, if you're serious about your shit, $200-300 a month. And typically, the kind of user that we're describing has enough disposable income to make that happen. Why not get the best fucking results you possibly can? Why not have half an eye on your long-term liver, in this case, but organ health specifically? Why not think about the investment of your time and effort, not just now, but in the future, so that you can continue to train your ass off? You're not doing stuff that's fucking yourself up. Here's the thing as well, Steve, and this is the reality of the situation. Right? In order to get massively strong or massively muscular or transform your body, it's not easy. Even with PEDs, it requires hard work, dedication, time, energy. But you'd rather finish school, college, work, go home, chill the fuck out, put your feet up. But no, you need to go to the gym in order to make shit happen. You want to make your missus, your partner, your girlfriend, whatever, happy. She's still happy to see with you because you haven't let yourself go. You want to look great for the beach. You want to look great for spring break. You've got an upcoming modeling gig. Some of you listeners will be competing. Okay, so I want to be the kind of person, as I did. I competed for over 10 years, Steve, doing the stuff that I was doing. We've got members on our forum right now that are still competing at 55 years of age, I think, in one example. Certainly the late 30s, early 40s in another example. One of the motherfuckers I'm thinking of saves 16-hour days sometimes when he's working in the vineyard. You know what I'm talking about? That's a long fucking day, and yet he still finds time to go to the gym. So what you're looking for those guys again is the ability to compete for years without fucking themselves up. The ability to get the most they possibly can out of their cycles, the money that they spend, but especially the time and effort you spend in the gym. You're not a lazy motherfucker. You're listening to the show, which means you're serious. You want to know how to protect yourself. I just looked at one ingredient, Steve, just while you were talking. And of the products that I had up on the screen, only one of them has got one of these ingredients in. The others don't have it at all. And it's half the fucking dose of N2Guards. So what the fuck are the other products doing? Honestly, guys, I could see sometimes, and Steve and I have talked about this, when we've gone into health food shops, and we said, you know, and maybe there's just us in there. So the person beyond have been uber helpful, but at the same time, they're trying to make us sound. And you go, listen, you know, you didn't know any better, Steve. You went in there and you said, I like to train, I like to work out. And I think Steve's done this in the past. I haven't been quite this bad, but I think you talked about spending $100 to $200 based on the recommendations of your local health food shop. I've done this in the UK for customers. I said, look, very big name company in the United Kingdom, ironically run by a huge American corporation now. So they're actually the same company. And they will quite often have sales of products, and it will say month supply. And I'll just use creatine as an example. Creatine tablets, Steve. And it'll have 30 pills. And each pill is at best 500 milligrams, maybe a gram, 1,000 milligrams. So where the fuck they're getting that's a month supply when you're supposed to be using 5,000 milligrams, 5 grams a day. That's pretty much what every fucker uses. In other words, it's about 6 days supply. It costs about £3 or £4. You might as well spend another £10 or £15 and get an actual half kilo of creatine, which would last you probably 2 or 3 months, and so on and so forth. So you start to see that these things don't add up. You start to realize that companies, whether it's a health food Joe down at the local health food shop, your local sports supplement company that you can walk into in a high street and not sell, they're just making money. The ingredients don't add up. It's a solid product. It's still creatine monohydrate, Steve, but it was literally 6 days supply, not a month supply. I bought joint products out there when I've had nothing else coming, and I needed to get something. I've had something come in, but I needed something for a few days, and I've literally gone down to my local supermarket, and I think it was like 1/3 of the effective dose, and it was meant to be a month supply. Where the fuck is it? If it's an effective dose is 1,500 milligrams, how the fuck is 500 milligrams a month supply for 30 tablets? It's not. It's 10 days. And so on. So you start to see the numbers, you start to see what's going on. I want to talk a little bit about, there's a bunch of ingredients on there, guys, and I really do encourage you to check out the information that we're going to add to this podcast and do your own research. And we could literally break down one after another, and we've done this on other shows. But I want you to pick 2 or 3 ingredients of your own and do the research and see what an effective dose is. I want to talk a little bit now, Steve, as we finish the show, about N2BM themselves.
So let me touch a little bit about them, and then I'll let you finish out with your final thoughts. Is that cool? So N2BM, look, they started as a modest company, 2 regular working class guys. One was a former U.S. Army cook. The other was a first-generation immigrant. And he was driving a broken down Honda. Another guy, I don't think he had a car. So they basically they didn't have much money, but they put whatever little they had into starting N2BM. And the way they started it, it was never to become rich. I mean, realistically, you're not going to become rich starting a supplement company, with a few $1,000s. That's just not possible. You're not going to grow it into a big corporation. But really what they wanted to do was do something kind of on the side, a side gig, work a regular job, a regular full-time job, but then just do a side gig on the side and make some extra money on the side. But they wanted to provide, they want to do a little differently. They wanted to specialize in a few good quality products and not be a reseller or not, provide tons of products, like 5 different protein powders, 5 different creatines, 5 different pre-workouts, like a typical supplement company out there. So what they did, they started coming up with these specific products, one of which is N2Guard. And we've talked about some of their products on the past show, the N2 Slim, the AC Generate, these other products that we've talked about that are very, very effective. But the N2Guard has been the #1 supplement they provide. And let me tell you something. I started using N2Guard 15 years ago, and it made such a difference on my cycles. It was such a difference that when I would buy N2Guard and I'd run out of it on cycle, literally as soon as I'd run out of it, a few days later, I'd feel so much different. The side effects would come on strong. So then I make another order, I get the product in the mail. And this is another thing they're really good at is they're fast customer service, excellent customer service. They ship to just about every country in the world. And I get the product and I start taking the N2Guard again. And like within like 2 or 3 days, once I got the product in my system, boom, my side effects improve. So it takes a huge difference in your health when you're on it on a cycle and versus where you're not on it. It makes a huge difference. You're able to get more results on your cycle. You're able to have a better PCT. You're able to recover better after your cycle. You're better able to improve your health between cycles. So it's an investment, as Monster and I talked about. It's an investment in your health. And N2BM, look, to this day, they've never grown into this big corporation where they're trying to sell 20, 30 supplements or 50 supplements or 100 supplements like these other supplement companies, right? That just want to make margins off reselling products. They've stuck to their brands and they've made sure they've kept improving on their products. N2Guard has improved over time. They've modernized the product. They've made the formula better, over time. They've tweaked the ingredients over time and the dosing to make it even more effective. That's a good product. That's a product that continues to improve over time. And the current N2Guard is the absolute best liver support supplement that you can take. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, you can absolutely prove this for yourself, Steve. There's at least one, possibly two other products that they've sold. One I wish they'd bring back. It was probably the best joint product that I've ever had. And I had some great results initially using joint type products. And then for whatever reason, probably because I'm pounding the fuck out of heavy crazy weights down the gym, I required something a bit more serious. And I got 100% say that when their product was available, this was the best end to joint product they've ever taken. And I wish they'd bring it back. I take joint type products now, Steve, but I still don't get the same results as I did when they were producing that. The testosterone boost is one of the most effective ones out there for the exact same reasons that N2Guard is, because you can check the numbers, you can check the effective dosages, you can set the source material, you can go away and compare these to studies and so on and so forth, and you can say to yourself, okay, why is this product like this? What about when I compare it to other companies' products? Why do products of theirs sell out? And why does it take so goddamn long for some of those products to come back into stock? Because of the reasons I've already stated. They worked the formulation side, and I've explained this on another show. I said, in order for they actually sat down and spoke to not just the two regional owners, but they sat down and spoke to industry experts on specific parts of the supplement sector. One created obviously for the organ protecting, the liver protecting product in the form of N2Guard, and the other one was for the testosterone booster, and it required a great deal of back and forth with those experts just to get the experts to say, yes, and if we combine this ingredient with this ingredient, we're going to have a synergistic effect. If we do this, we're not just boosting the testosterone, we're pumping the testicles, we're looking after their other organs at the same time. We know, like Steve said already, that they've done that. We know that they're not making great amounts of money. Neither of these guys are even close to millionaire. Not even close. No one's putting up fucking pictures of sports cars or whatever else. Why are their products not the cheapest? For the reason they've already stated. Absolutely. They're worth every single penny. And here's something else as well. I actually said this on another show recently too, Steve, when we were talking about the testosterone booster. I said I never understood the idea in some ways of spending the amount of money that I talked about earlier on just on your PD cycle, spending the amount of money just on gas to drive to the gym and all that kind of stuff, and then trying to cheat your way out of looking after your organs. But like I said, listeners, compare like with like. Look at the ingredient profiles, break that information down for yourself. You don't have to go through every single one. Just pick 2 or 3 and study those for yourself and see what we're talking about as being correct. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Come onto the forums and discuss N2Guard, dosing, how to use it, and so on and so forth on end of cycle. Let us know your thoughts. Please note, we are not doctors and opinions ours. It's our view and based on our experience and views on the topic. Our podcasts are for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.